My Bible over there in my pocket. Today we'll be going into the desolation of abomination, but we're looking to do this on another level. We're going to show you that the desolation of our people starts with false flags. When I say our people, I'm not primarily pointing out a race. So I don't want people to think that I'm talking about a race of people. When I say our people, we're talking about people in Christ. Okay, Yeshua. Of course, the scriptures says to the Jew first and then the Gentile, but all are in Christ. So I wanted to make that clear because I think that the division thing have been played in which all nations are fighting against each other. All people are fighting against each other. We know that was prophesied in Matthew 24. But by all this fighting and distraction, we've taken our eyes off the ball and not focused where it needs to be focused. The powers that are controlling the earth need us to fight and to go against each other. They need that. That's part of what allowed them to stay in power in this earth, confusion. They tell you in 1 Corinthians 14 that the Most High is not the author of confusion. So Satan thrives off confusion, fighting, adversity. Okay? But what we're going into today, we're going to use a little history and the Bible to show you there's nothing new under the sun, and that there cannot be a desolation of a people without first a false flag. Now, for those who don't understand what a false flag is, a false flag is usually perpetrated by someone that have the finances and power to control media or the minds of the people. A false flag is like an attack or some type of terrorism activity in which it's perpetrated by government and blamed on people to go against a specific group. And I think this will hit those who believe in the Bible on another level. It will also interest those who had questions about the Bible and whether or not the Bible is true. And I printed some detailed information. I will go into some history. If you don't know history, we're doomed to repeat it. Because we don't study history, we're in this never-ending cycle that's destroying us. So I'm going to go into the history to show you that these things were prophesied and there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to what's going on in the earth today. When we say desolation, the Bible, the book of Daniel, talk about a desolation of abomination. You hear about this desolation primarily in prophecy with prophetic church teachers, and they tell you that the desolation is against the church. And they say that it's going to come a time of tribulation in which the church will be in turmoil. You can't say they're fully incorrect. They are correct. But the part in which they're incorrect is they don't include the fact that this is actually aimed at a race of people first. They don't look in the history and show what happened to the Jews that ran into Africa in 70 AD. That was the first desolation that would lead to persecution of Christ's church. They tend to sway away from that information because if they go into it, it would actually pinpoint and signify a distinct people who are Israel that ran into Africa fleeing from the Roman Empire. Because they don't want to answer those or deal with those or open that can of worms, those can of worms, they would rather say that it's the church. That's the biggest problem we have with modern day theology. It's not that they don't teach some things correct, but they exclude the people it actually happened to. That's the piece. And we see a lot of people out there like Alex Jones and whom the government call conspiracy theorists. We see people putting bits and pieces together about what's going on, knowing that the government have something to do with a lot of these things that are happening in the earth. But yet, it's a conspiracy because they can't put it together. Everyone have a piece, but they're excluding the most important piece. This allow us to put all the pieces together. So they'd rather you grasp at straws and have a piece of the conspiracy without putting it all together. Therefore, they can continue to operate. When I say they, I'm talking about the powers of this world. Okay? So let's go into it. We're going into the desolations. The desolations in the earth starts with false flags. That will be the topic this evening. The desolations start with false flags. So also, you hear this word. They want us to live in a world of tyranny. They want us to be cattle to them. They. We keep on hearing this they, and can't identify who the they is. Who are these people, or what are they that want to oppress their citizens or destroy this earth? Who are they? Let's start there. Let's go to Ephesians 6 and 12. Follow us. Ephesians 6. And let's start at the 12th verse. Go ahead.
Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
Read it again.
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
We wrestle not with flesh and blood. So when you hear those who may be tagged conspiracy theorists talk about the they have pieces. But this thing is deeper than physical man. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but who?
But against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world.
We're wrestling or fighting against the rulers and darkness of this world. There's rulers and spirits that are controlling the government figures in this earth with an agenda. You have to realize. Read.
Against spiritual wickedness in high places.
Against spiritual wickedness in high places. That's what we're fighting against. So when you say the they, you're not fighting with just physical beings. Or someone might just point to a president of the United States or the Queen of England or these government figures that really change chairs like musical chairs. But yet an agenda continues regardless of who's in the seat. So there's a spiritual plan against spiritual people. And whether or not people want to believe the Bible and want to believe that the Bible is true, regardless or not, it doesn't matter if you believe it, it's happening. This is what's happening. There's demons and spirits controlling the governments of this earth and giving them a time period in which to exterminate the people of Christ. These are the same people, these are the same spirits that control Herod. Herod, who was determined to kill Christ. These were the same spirits who controlled the Caesars. All right? Now, I don't want to get too far dealing with the spirits that mingled with men. I want to keep this on a base level so that we can all understand what's going on in an effort to rally together in the spirit. It's not about who knows more knowledge than others and all. It's not about that. We're going to need each other in these last days. And in order for us to get ready for this battle, in order for us to battle, we must first stop fighting each other and understand who we're really fighting against. Start at the 10th verse.
Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of the Most High, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil.
So in order to make it through the last part of this tribulation, we must put on the full armor of the Most High. We must put on the full armor of these scriptures. Understanding we're fighting against spirits. We must be able to protect ourselves to stand against the wiles of the devils. His spiritual weaponry. You can't fight this government physically. You can't fight these world powers physically, because it's not just the physical. They're being controlled by spirits. They're being controlled and are set up and established through spiritual beings. Some people have a piece of it, but they still only have a piece. And they become what you would call conspiracy theorists. You have like David Icke, who's in the UK or Europe, who primarily focus on the reptilian race, to tell you that there's some type of reptilian or deformed spirits that are giving technology to the people. But it's so far-fetched that people can write them off as some type of nut job. But it's just a piece if you don't have this understanding. Some people, like Alex Jones, strictly focuses on government conspiracies and things that the government is doing without telling the people, in an effort to protect the Constitution. Now, if you're only trying to protect the Constitution, you lost focus, because this plan was in place well before the Constitution was drafted. They did the same thing in ancient times. They did the same false flags in ancient history. And it wasn't about protecting the Constitution. Even though they're bringing out good information, they're still off track. They can be utilized by the same people they're trying to go against, or the same spirits that they claim to be fighting against. The T-H-E-Y. But we wrestle not with flesh and blood. So I'm going to, on a base level, we're going to go into some history and link it into modern day things that are happening within current events, and bring you current to today in a nutshell, on a low level, on a base level, so that we can all understand it. And therefore, we'll be able to understand who we're fighting against and who we must help in these last days. Let's go to the Desolation. Let's go to the one in Daniel first and get Matthew 24. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Chapter and verse. Give it to the brothers and sisters.
Daniel chapter 9, verse 2.
Go ahead.
In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years, whereof the Most High came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem.
He would accomplish what?
70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem.
He would accomplish 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem. Go ahead.
Down to verse 26.
Go down to 26. Go ahead.
Verse 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince shall destroy the city and the sanctuary.
The people of the what?
The people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary.
The people of the prince, which is the prince of darkness. The people of Satan, which was the Roman Empire, shall come and do what?
Shall come, destroy the city and the sanctuary.
They shall come and destroy the city and the sanctuary. Okay, now this was a desolation that was prophesied during Daniel's time. Now, mind you, this was well over 400 years, over 500 years. You understand? Before it actually happened. This is the desolation that Daniel was talking about, to show you that the Bible prophecies are true. The desolation in which the Roman Empire would destroy the remnant of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi that were in the southern kingdom or in Judea. Now, what makes this important is that these were a particular people. It had nothing to do with a religion. Okay? It so happened that these people were the people of God who received the law, statutes, and commandments in the Old Testament. These were physical people who were destroyed by the people of the Prince of Darkness, which was the Roman Empire. These people, the Roman Empire and their governors and their emperors, were dealing directly and are dealing directly with the Prince of Darkness, Satan. So that was the agenda, to destroy the people or the original people that were in the land of Israel. Now, I need you to make a point of that, because you're going to find out that never changed. See, and that's the piece that all these conspiracy theorists are missing, that piece never changed. The prince of darkness is still over the Roman Empire, focused on the same people or the seed of those people that were in Jerusalem originally. This have nothing to do with a religion, because some people might say, well, it's just talking about Christians. You're partly right, but this is the piece you're missing. Go to Acts 11 and 26. Go to Acts 11 and 26, please. Acts 11 and 26.
The book of Acts, chapter 11, verse 26. And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church, and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch.
The disciples were called what?
And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch.
So you have to realize there was a people established before the Roman Empire started calling the Jews Christians. Those Jews that were following Christ were not called were not called Christians until the Romans saw it fit to label them. To do what? To put a name or label on a faction of Jews who were newly come up. All right? So they wasn't just focusing on Christians. They was focusing on Jews who were Christian. You really need to focus on this, because the confusing piece in this, they flipped everything, they turned everything upside down and made you believe that the European or Khazars are the Jews. And they're not. They converted into Judaism. So this thing is not really focused towards them. It's focused towards the real Jews, the seed of the Israelites that turn or who have been converted into Christ. All right? Read on. Read that last part again, because there's something key on that.
Acts chapter 11, verse 26. And when they had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church, and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first at Antioch.
The disciples were called Christians first at Antioch. So the disciples were Jews. Peter, he was a Jew. He was an Israelite. He wasn't Jewish. They were from the seed of either the seed of Benjamin, Levi, or Judah. They were not Jewish. So the prince of the people, which are European Romans, were against the Jews. They were against the Israelites. They tried to kill the Israelites. And those Israelites, like it said in prophecy, fled from the face of the serpent and went into the wilderness. Those that took heed to Christ's prophecies. Let's get Matthew 24. Let's go to Matthew 24. And read 15.
St. Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet.
The Lord says, when you see the desolation of abomination spoken of by Daniel the prophet. What is this desolation? This is the prince of darkness's government, which is the Roman Empire, coming against the Jews which were in Israel at that time. Coming against the Christians or the Jews who followed Christ, or the Israelites that followed Christ. Read.
St. Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place.
Stand in the holy place. Read.
Whoso readeth, let him understand.
Whoso readeth, let him understand. Read on.
Verse 16. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains.
Say this again.
Verse 16. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains.
And those physical people which were Israelites that converted to Christianity under Christ understood with the high military occupation they were to flee unto the mountains when they see high military occupation. Now, it's proven history, and you can read this in a book called Hebrewism in West Africa. Also, there's some detailed good history from Babylon to Timbuktu, and Judea trembleth under Rome. All right, and that book is by Rudolf Ard-Windsor. There's some detailed history of what happened to a physical people who were destroyed by the Roman Empire in 70 AD and fled into the Atlas Mountains. They went around Morocco, eventually into certain parts of Africa, and settled into Africa. These were the actual people that the serpent know that he must destroy and have a certain amount of time to destroy them. Okay? A particular people. They fled into Africa. They fled into Africa from the face of the serpent. Now, before this happened, of course, signs of Christ or signs of the time is what those Christians or Jews at that time was looking for to know when to flee. That brings us to the false flags. How can the Roman Empire make a pretext to go against a people that were not bothering them? How could they do this? How would they get the public sentiment of the government to back them in their coup and military interaction amongst these spiritual people. Let's see. Here's a picture or a bust of Nero, Claudius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus. Now, as you can see, Augustus Germanicus. And as you can clearly see, you see the word German in his name. But he was a Caesar, Nero. There's some key things that Nero did about 4 years before the Jews was persecuted by the Romans and were destroyed in the desolation of abomination that led to their ousting from Jerusalem, or led to our ousting. Let me put it that way. I want to read this caption here. It says, Nero's rule is often associated with tyranny. And you notice you hear that word from conspiracy theorists a lot. Tyranny. Tyranny is when you have a government which make you think it's a republic, but it's really ruled by one seat. It's not ruled by a republic. They just have the facade of a republic, of checks and balances. But really, the buck stops at one seat. With tyranny, the people can be controlled, and the Senate and Congress can be controlled. It says, Nero's rule is often associated with tyranny and extravagance. He is known for a number of executions, including those of his mother and stepbrother. And the emperor who fiddled while Rome burned. So he sat and did festivities and was just relaxing while Rome was burning. Now, does this sound familiar? And as an early persecutor of Christians, he was the first one to aim persecution towards those that would follow Christ, the Jews in Israel at that time that followed Christ. Okay, so we're going to condense this. Yes, this war is against Christians, but you can't deny the Jews or the Israelites who bloodline linked directly to the people who were in Jerusalem at that time, who were Christians. That's who Satan is really against. That's who this government is really against. So, what did he do? I want y'all to examine this and look at this clearly, folks. And tell me if this is just a coincidence. It says here, the great fire in Rome. This is under Nero. In Latin is called Magnum Incendium Romae. Was an urban fire that occurred 64 AD. 64 AD now. Now, mind you, this is only a few years before Titus is set up, before Vespasian and Titus do this thing in 70 AD against the Jews. This is 64 AD. Districts were completely destroyed, and the other 7 suffered serious damage. The only other contemporaneous historian to mention the fire was Pliny the Elder, who wrote about it in passing. Other historians who lived through the period, including Diocletian, Plutarch, and Epictetus, make no mention of it. These are like reporters at that time, or whom they would call historians. Burned. Rome continued about 1,700 private houses and 47,000 insula of tenant blocks. It was said by Cassius Dio that Nero that the emperor at that time sang the sack of Ilium in stage costume as the city burned. So he was sitting around amongst his people having a party in a costume while parts of Rome was burning. Now, here's the key thing. Nero organized a relief effort, which he paid for from his own funds. After the fire, Nero opened his palaces to provide shelter for the homeless and arranged for food supplies to be delivered in order to prevent starvation among the survivors. In the wake of the fire, he made a new urban development plan, housing after the fire was spaced out, built in brick and faced by porticos on wide roads. Nero also built a new palace complex known as the Damus Area in the area cleared by the fire. The size of the complex is debated. So check out what this guy did. First of all, there was rumors that he actually got his what you would call you would call them, they were military, but they were out of uniform military. So he got people to dress up as Jews, sort of like Blackwater did, and burned houses all over the place, and then blamed it on the Jews or the Christians in Jerusalem. Therefore, he can use this as a pretext to rally his people behind him with patriotism against these people. And he did nothing for over 5 days while this thing burned. Here's a picture of it. Here's the picture. Now, mind you, I have another picture for you. I have another picture for you. Go to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. And I need you to hold what you have in Matthew and hold what you have in the Josephus. So this was a false flag to get public sentiment and popularity amongst the Romans to go against a people who were not bothering them. Now, mind you, at that time, they blamed it on Christian extremists or the Jews who followed Christ. This time, now mind you, the president did nothing while these planes was hitting the building. He was just around someplace at a school reading a book to children. Do this sound familiar? See, and because people don't read history and understand history, they fail to understand that these false flags are done because these people in high places are controlled by spirits who are against a people in this earth, who are against an actual people. We need to tie this thing together. Read Ecclesiastes in the Bible, 1 and 9. Read that.
Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9. The thing that hath been done, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done.
The thing that have been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. Read.
And there is no new thing under the sun.
There is no new thing under the sun. These governments are not doing anything different. They're just pulling out the books, the atlases, and the canons of their fathers, and are doing the same thing. And the people are prey to these things because they don't study history. And on top of that, they create an element in which you will fight against each other. And while you're fighting against each other, taking each other out, they're planning on taking everyone out. Well, I want you to focus on this for a second. Nero cared not about Rome. And after it was burned, he already had the legislation in place to come in as a hero. Not only could he blame the Jews, but he could also feed the people, examine the event and see what what things went wrong so that he could bring more laws to stricken the people. So he looked like he was paraded as a hero, but he was the one that was behind the false flag. He was the one that created the false flag, and they welcomed him in Rome as he was a hero, feeding them the spirit of patriotism. So they couldn't wait to kill the Christians. They couldn't wait to kill the Jews that were in Jerusalem. I need y'all to examine this for a second. And they're still killing those same exact physical people. It didn't stop. It didn't stop in Rome. It didn't stop in Rome. Go to Revelations 12. It didn't stop in Rome. Let's get the history on this first out of the Josephus. Then we go on to Revelations 12. Let's get the history first. We're going to go into the Josephus and give you the history from Josephus. Give you a brief historical outlook on what happened during Nero's time. Now, this is before Vespasian and Titus sacked Jerusalem all together 6 years later. Now, I want you to see how this parallels to what's going on in the earth today. You start a false flag, blame it on an extremist or someone religiously extreme. Roll out things that can help the people, but still have the people targeted against a faction. This time they said it was Muslim extremists, but you notice it's not about Muslim extremists anymore. They didn't curtail this thing to focus on one people. Now the terrorists are Christians and black people are the terrorists now. Minorities are the terrorists. Mexicans crossing the border, drug cartel, terrorists. We must rally the American citizens to protect our borders because of terrorism. We must protect our people from the drug cartels when we know it's the government that financed the drug cartels. This is a fight against a people, the same people that originally inhabited Jerusalem. Let's go there.
It doesn't go into it in here. I have it right here, but it doesn't go into it.
Okay, get it right here. We're going to get it in a nutshell because we don't have the time to go into all the history, but I think y'all getting the gist of this. We're going to get this out of the Bible dictionary. It's a little tore up here. the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. Read it.
In 64 AD, a large part of Rome was destroyed by fire. Whether or not Nero actually ordered the burning of the city is very controversial.
It's very controversial. He ordered the burning of the city to destroy a people. This is nothing new. Okay? Bin Laden had nothing to do with towers. Okay? Our people had nothing to do with the underwear bombing. Okay? Our people had nothing to do with none of that. Our people are not trying to leave the country to join some Muslim extremist. People just want to live their life and serve the Most High. It's the governments that are whipping the people. It's the government that are whipping the people up into a frenzy in an effort to have people attack each other while they're attacking everyone. It's governments that are doing this, and they did this in the past. We wrestle not with flesh and blood. Read.
However, justly or not, the finger of suspicion was pointed in Nero's direction.
The finger of suspicion was pointed in Nero's direction. Read.
A scapegoat was provided in the Christians.
A scapegoat was provided with who?
A scapegoat was provided in the Christians.
He burned Rome and blamed it on us. He burned Rome and blamed that atrocity on a people who had no idea what they were doing. Why? Because it was prophesied in Daniel that the people of the prince would destroy the people of the temple, the Israelites, the children of Israel. So Satan is focused towards destroying a certain people. Let's get Revelations, the 12th chapter, and let's start at the 10th verse. Read it.
Revelations chapter 12 verse 10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and power, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down.
So when Christ was crucified, Satan was cast down for good, which means he had no more entrance to the throne of the Most High to accuse the brethren like he did in the Old Testament. Read.
Which accused them before our God day and night.
Go ahead.
And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb.
And we were overcome by the blood of the Lamb, by Christ's crucifixion, by his blood, and shedding his blood for our sins. It gives his people another chance to come back to the Father. These were the same people that fell in the old covenant. See, this is the piece they're not teaching in Christianity. There's an actual physical people that Satan is against first that are Christian. Read.
Revelations chapter 12 verse 11. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony.
So this is how we can overcome. The Most High help us overcome by Christ's sacrifice, giving us a chance. Because in our law, it was required a lamb without blemish for an atonement of sins. And what? The last part of that.
And by the word of their testimony.
And by the word of their testimony. The words we read here. Read.
And they loved not their lives unto the death.
And they loved not their lives unto the death. So these are they which are willing to give their lives for the truth. That's how the disciples were. Okay, and these are they whom the powers have no power over. They are afraid of. Read.
Verse 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth.
So the Most High has given us a key indicator here by saying, woe unto the inhabitants of the earth. Satan is going to come now that he can't go before the throne and accuse the brethren anymore. He's going to destroy everything, including the earth. Woe unto what?
Woe to the inhabitants of the earth.
Woe unto us. We're living on this earth. And who?
And of the sea.
And of the what?
And of the sea.
Look what's going on in the waters right now. So they'll do anything to destroy these particular people. You need to see this. They'll destroy creation to get to these people. Read.
For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time.
So the devil is directing these government figures to destroy these people with any means necessary, even if it means destroying the earth, because he know his time is running out. So he have a certain amount of time to destroy these people. And I'm going to tell you something about these people. These people are your minorities. These people are who your governments call minorities. They don't matter. That's why they call minor or minority. Y'all really need to examine this. Because these are the people, if you want to make it, that you will have to be behind and help in the last days. Okay? Read.
Verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth,
He did what?
he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child.
He persecuted the woman that brought forth the man-child. He persecuted the children of Israel who brought forth Christ. In the Old Testament, the woman of the Most High is his people, the children of Israel. So they started persecuting the people who brought forth Christ. These was a physical people. It had nothing to do with a Christian religion. These were people. Read.
Verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 great wings of an eagle.
To the woman was given 2 wings of an eagle. Now, how do we know this is talking about people and not a church? Read the first verse.
Revelations chapter 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
A crown of 12 stars. That signifies or denote the 12 tribes of Israel. That's who this woman is. The woman is the 12 tribes, including the lost tribes. Okay, now go back to the verse you left off at.
Verse 14.
Go ahead.
And to the woman were given 2 great wings of an eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness.
So she was given 2 wings of an eagle. That means to take flight and fly or to run. Read.
That she might fly into the wilderness.
That she may flee or run into the wilderness. Why? Read.
Into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half time from the face of the serpent.
So she will be protected for a certain amount of time or a dispensation of time against the Roman Empire or the people who are being controlled by Satan. And what was their original mission? To totally exterminate the children of Israel. They didn't just stop at Christians. They exterminated all the Jews and all the Israelites. They tried to kill them all, but there was a remnant that ran into Africa. And you notice the eugenics program is aimed primarily, and your missionaries are aimed primarily towards Africa. Different parts of Africa. Why? Because the Jews hid themselves amongst the other dark races. These are the same people that this system, this eugenics system, is aimed towards. It's not a coincidence. Now it's the false flag in the world today that's calling everyone terrorist, and it's aimed towards the poor. Only the poor are receiving the tail end of this thing. Only the poor is receiving the bad end of this. Look at what's happening in Jamaica now. They're cutting off the money to destroy. They're already poor. Look what happened in Haiti. Look what's happening in Mexico. Look at what's about to happen and what's happening in America right now. Look at what's happening. This is aimed towards a people, and they're doing the same thing. They're setting up a garrison around the country with military, with a UN military, for the last desolation of abomination. in which, or what the Christians call today, tribulation. This is what they're planning towards a people. And I have some information that I want to share with you on top of this. But let's finish where we were. Go ahead.
Revelations chapter 12, verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness.
Go ahead.
Into her place.
Go ahead.
Where she is nourished for a time.
So she was nourished for a time. Go ahead.
And times.
Go ahead.
And a half time.
Go ahead.
From the face of the serpent.
From the face of the serpent. Who was the serpent operating with? The Roman Empire. The Roman Empire. You got Babylon and Timbuktu?
No.
Let's see if I have it here. I have Babylon and Timbuktu here. Yeah?
Can you hear it though?
We can hear it, but we can't see nothing.
Okay. Huh? Okay. We want to check this because we notice when we bring out detailed information, it purposely stream kind of bad here. And they're doing this purposely because they know when we're bringing out detailed information also. Y'all streamed fine yesterday, didn't you? Had problems?
No video.
Huh? Yeah, they doing that? We'll see. Huh? Okay. Let me check with the people. Can y'all see and hear me clearly? Let me know if you can see and hear me clearly. Okay, good. Okay. Well, we're going to continue it, and I'll just do another lesson on it with the detail. We'll do it private and upload it. Okay? You want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do it Saturday.
Huh?
Do it Saturday. Since we doing it Saturday.
Do it tonight. Okay. I want to continue to go into this. Finish reading what you have in Revelations. Go ahead.
Revelations chapter 12, verse 14. And to the woman were given 2 great wings of an eagle, or 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she was nourished for a time, and times, and a half time from the face of the serpent.
Where she's nourished a time, and a half a times from the what?
From the face of the serpent.
From the face of the serpent. So that's a dispensation of time that Satan have to rule. So the Most High opened a window in which those that took heed to Christ's prophecies would run into Africa and flee and hide themselves amongst the dark races from the Europeans, or the European power, which was Rome, that came to destroy the children of Israel that followed Christ. They seen high military occupation in their land, and they knew, okay, it's time. And you're going to find out those same signs are today. When you see high military activity, regardless of what they're telling you it's for, whether they're saying it's to help you, no. They told us that in 70 AD. They told us that after Nero burnt Rome. They told us that with Vespasian and Titus. No, we're not going to listen to that anymore. We're not following that anymore. You can't come with weapons and guns and say you're there to help people. You said that to us in Katrina. Katrina was really a military op, or what you would call a military operation, to plan for what they are about to do now. We wrestle not with flesh and blood. We dealing with sorcerers, demons, spirits in high places. Spirits who understand how to use certain technology and move and control weather. That's what we're dealing with now. So they can point weather towards a certain area and move it with the computer all over the Gulf regions. They can do this. And what people are suffering and have nothing in the Gulf region? I want to show you something. I'm getting page 84 in Babylon and Timbuktu here. I want you to read. I'm on page 84 from Babylon to Timbuktu. And it talks about in the year 65 BC. Read that.
In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state.
Now, this was during the time of Nero, right after the burning, the false flag burning of Rome. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish, or what you would call the Jew state. Read.
During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people.
Many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. The residue are the people that was left there and didn't take heed to Christ's warning of the desolation of abomination. It was a residue or remnant left there who was hard-headed. And those were the people, Vespasian and Titus, controlled by the serpent, were able to destroy and control. Read.
During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
It has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa. Who are these Jews? These were the original people that were following Christ that was persecuted by the European Romans. That was persecuted by the European Romans. And this is fact. This is history. Read.
During the period from Pompey to Julius.
So if you look at the time from Pompey to Julius, read.
It has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
Over how many?
Over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
Over 1 million Jews took heed to Christ's prophecy. They didn't go to the rooftop. If they seen it, if they came down from the rooftop, they didn't go into the house to grab anything, like Christ said. They grabbed what was on their persons when they seen the Roman occupation, and they started to leave. And mind you, they was vilified as a pretext of them vilifying the Jews. The Roman Empire was able to, for the first time, place military within Jerusalem. Their armies within Jerusalem. Y'all, you better look at this and do the comparisons. There's nothing new under the sun. This is the government-controlled destruction or genocide of a race. that follow Christ. A race of people. And there's a remnant out of these people whom they know will rise and raise and be used in great power in this earth at this time. They know it. They don't care about the conspiracy theorists and people giving little parts. They care about these same people, the seed of these people, standing again with the knowledge of their forefathers. That's what they are afraid of. They're afraid of the woman that bare the man-child. It's the same people you might think are minorities. That the government may tell you they're bad people, they're diseased people, they're druggies. Listen, there will be no drugs without the CIA or government. There will be no diseases without the vaccination program. So you're buying the propaganda by the same people you're claiming to be fighting against or to be arguing against. Think about it. Fighting against the Mexicans, saying, oh, they trying to take our borders. Your border's been taken a long time ago. It had nothing to do with the Mexicans. The Mexican was here before there was a border. Mm-hmm. Wake up. This is aimed towards destroying the poor, the people that Christ will rise in the last days, that would find Christ again. The same people that fled into Africa in 70 AD. These are the Jews. Read.
During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa.
Over 1 million Jews fled into Africa. And why? Where's the history on these people? All these great colleges don't have this information. Where's the history on the Jews that fled into Africa? I hear all about the Jews that fled into Europe and they went into certain areas. I hear all about that. They don't want to open up Pandora's box. Why? Because the serpent is still trying to control and destroy the remnant of that seed. If they make you think these people are nothing, they're druggies, they're just trying to take our jobs, they're just diseased, then you will accommodate them in helping them destroy God's chosen people, God's seed in this earth. You're helping them. Read.
Fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery.
Go ahead.
The slave markets.
Listen to this. The slave markets were what?
The slave markets were full of black Jew slaves.
The slave markets were full of black Jew slaves. We're reading this from Babylon to Timbuktu. Get that history book. Get some true history for a change so you can understand what's going on. And if you think this is something, what they are about to do throughout this whole earth is nothing compared to what they did to us in 70 AD. That was a microcosm in 70 AD on what the globalists are doing now. Because Israel was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, they had to implement a governmental, one world government program of genocide to destroy these people who were scattered. And they don't care who they take down in the midst of them taking down these people. So yes, other races and other people are going to die in a great number, but they don't care. It's really aimed towards a certain people because they know in Revelation, the 12th chapter, Revelation 7, it's talking about a number of men who must be sealed, who will rule with Christ. They know this. They know that Christ is coming to bring the kingdom that was promised a long time ago through Abraham, and his people will be established again, and Satan will be bound. They understand this. So they're using the governments of this earth, the powers of this earth, starting with the Roman Empire back then, and now it's being instituted by America in the Jewish Israeli state, the Khazar state, because they're not Israel according to blood, to continue what Nero started. Now, I'm going to give you some distinct details. Let's go to Josephus and show what happened to us at Masada for those who decided to stay in Jerusalem during that time and didn't take heed to Christ's prophecy to flee. Read it.
The war of the Jews.
Here's the war of the Jews in the Josephus. I need you to give the chapter and part you're in, the part you're reading.
Book 5, chapter 12, paragraph 1.
Now, I want you to just meditate on this while we're reading this. And tell me, do this sound like Katrina? Now, mind you, when we talk about this, people say, well, hold up. It wasn't just black people that suffered in Katrina. Yes, there was some poor of other races that suffered in Katrina. But look at the number. Look at the percentages. Look at the percentages. Yeah, some people are going to fall through the cracks. But who are the people primarily targeted in Katrina? Who are these people primarily targeted? What people could not afford to displace themselves or had the luxury to go to some other place? Who are these people? Go ahead.
And now, did Titus consult with his commanders what was to be done? Those that were of the warmest tempers thought he should bring the whole army against the city and storm the wall. For that hitherto no more than a part of their army had fought with the Jews. But in the case of the entire army was to come at once, they would not be able to sustain their attacks, but would be overwhelmed by their darts. But of those that were of a more cautious management, some were raising their banks again, and others advised them to let the banks go, but to lie still before the city and guard against the coming out of the Jews, and against their carrying provisions into the city.
And I want you to examine this. Because Masada was a great mountain, which was the last fort that our people had in Jerusalem before we fell, the Romans knew that they could not take Masada because the Jews had the high ground there. So the only way they could win against the Jews, or the remnant that was left, was to encamp a trench around Jerusalem for 7 years and make sure no provisions get in or out. I want you to examine this now because they're placing borders around a particular country right now. They covered the western coast and the western borders, the borders of Texas, Arizona, the borders of California, with the pretext or false flag of immigrants running over the borders. They used that and they incinerated the matter, throwing gas on the matter by making people think that their financial case was because of these poor Mexicans making nothing coming over the border, doing jobs that you don't want to do anyway. But they used that to do what? To put military on the border. Because if they would have did it otherwise, you would have been suspicious. Now, the Gulf Coast. How can you send people with guns to cure an oil spill? A day after the so-called rig blew, Barack Obama made an announcement that he sent a SWAT team to investigate the Gulf Coast. Now, they're looking at a mass evacuation, which will shore up not just the western coast now, but the Gulf Coast all the way to the East Coast. So now what we have here is a border entrenched around the people. Can someone say Nero? Is this Nero? Is this Vespasian and Titus? Is this General Petraeus as Vespasian and Titus? And George Bush and Barack Obama as Caesar? Is it? Think. Read on.
Others advised to let the banks go, but to lie still before the city, to guard against the coming out of the Jews and against their carrying provisions into the city.
So they had to control our provisions. So they wanted to make sure people could not nourish themselves, starve the people out. Read.
And so to leave the enemy to the famine, and this without direct fighting with them. For that despair was not to be conquered, especially as to those who were desired to die by the sword, while a more terrible misery than that is reserved for them.
Go ahead. Jump over to what happened for the people that was left in the city. Let's show some of the things that happened to them. Number one, if you are left in a total chaotic situation, you can't expect peace. You can only expect chaos. So if there's no provisions for the people and you're not letting anything in or out of the city, Katrina, is that 70 AD or is that Katrina? Then people start going into stores, going into private businesses to get provisions for themselves. It's called survival. It's called survival where we come from. It's called looting when the government see it. See, it's still criminalizing the people that are suffering. So they already have this propaganda in place because they used it in 70 AD. They look at them. They're acting like animals. They're looting. Same thing in Haiti. These people are seeing their family, their children, their skulls crushed in buildings. These people had no provisions. And the only thing the government could publicize through media was people trying to get grains of rice. They're looting, shooting people in the back because they were trying to get water for their family. They're animals. They know the next result of being trapped is to panic. So they use that against the people too. This is what they're doing. This is what they did. And you know what? They are about to do it again. Go ahead.
War of the Jews, Book 5, Chapter 12, Paragraph 2. When Titus had therefore encompassed the city with this wall, and put garrisons into proper places.
So he built what you would call a border around the city. Read.
He went around the wall at the first watch of the night, and observed how the guard was kept. The second watch he allowed it to Alexander. The commanders of the legion took the third watch. They also cast lots among themselves who should be upon the watch in the nighttime, and who should go all night long round the spaces that were interposed between the garrisons.
So they watched him 24 hours a day. I seen something that disturbed me this morning. I seen this militia group, who the government is not stopping now, at the borders as American patriots trying to shore the borders against what they call Mexican drug cartel. Give me a break. Now, why would the government allow this to go on, but go against the militias that's going to protect themselves when it comes to them defending the Constitution? But you're going to let some militias go to the border to kill Mexicans, or what they would call drug cartels. Now people are criminals just for being Mexicans. And these Mexicans are from the tribe of Issachar. They are part of the seed. They're the chosen people of the Most High. They're being vilified. Same thing I'm seeing here. It's okay to destroy these people because they're not good people. So you can put militias at the border to kill these Mexicans, and then just say they was part of a drug cartel. Go ahead.
Paragraph 3. So all hope of escaping was now cut off from the Jews, together with their liberty of going out of the city. Then the famine widened its progress. This is what the Romans wanted. They wanted to starve these people out. Read. And devoured the people by whole houses and families.
They devoured the people by whole houses in famine. Read.
The upper rooms were full of women and children that were dying by famine, and the lanes of the city were full of dead bodies of the aged. The children also and the young men wandered about the marketplaces like shadows, all swelled with the famine.
Their bellies were swelled by the famine. Now, mind you, right on the outside of this city, the Romans are fat from eating. They got all the food, they got water, they got everything. But the people could not go down because they had the wells. The Romans had the wells protected. And if we came down to get water, they would kill the people. A border. Read.
And fell down dead wheresoever their misery seized them.
Go ahead.
As for burying them, those that were sick among themselves, those that were sick themselves were not able to do it. And those that were hardy and well were deterred from going out into the great multitude of the dead of these dead bodies. And by the uncertainty there was how soon they should die themselves. For many died as they were burying others.
So you had people just falling dead trying to bury others, and a burial is honorable. That's in our law. So we couldn't even bury our dead from the weakness of famine, due to the weakness of famine. Read.
For many died as they were burying others.
Now, who could do this to a people? Do these people sound like humanitarians to you? Why would they do this to these people? Mind you, these people are people that follow Christ. They did nothing to the Roman Empire. Examine this. And imagine what was going on in Katrina. How the people was crying, Jesus, Lord, what's going on here? Why can't anyone come and help us? Why George Bush stayed for almost a week at the White House looking at the suffering of the people, seeing the dead bodies float on water. You think this is a coincidence? Katrina was nothing compared to what's about to happen. It's zero compared to what's about to happen. Katrina was nothing more than a military operation for what they're about to do in America. Read on.
For many died as they were burying others, and many went to their coffins before that fatal hour was come. Nor was there any lamentation made under these calamities, nor were heard any mournful complaints, but the famine confounded all natural passions.
It was so hideous, and the death was such at a high level, people stopped mourning the dead. Death was expected. Now, those that are saying that, well, it's the tribulation period. You tell these people it wasn't tribulation. That's another thing. They make you think tribulation is just at a certain point or an interval. When our people have been suffering tribulation since 70 AD. Really, since Christ was crucified. No sooner as Christ was crucified, it was tribulation on the disciples. After the disciples, which were Israelites, it was tribulation on their people in 70 AD. A false flag by Nero. We ran into Africa. Then there was more tribulation when they grabbed us from the shores of Africa and brought us to serve slavery and made us serve with mirth, like it says in Psalms 137. And then there was tribulation all over. There was tribulation for Boliqua Taino Indians. It was tribulation for the Mexicans, the tribulation for the Benjamites. Look at the Haitians eating dirt cookies. So don't give me no short period of tribulation when we've been dealing with tribulation, waiting on our Lord since he was crucified. We're in the tribulation. Stop making people think that you have to wait for something we're living in. We don't have to wait for an antichrist. The government is antichrist. We don't have to wait for all these little events that the Christian church meticulously put out there like a cheese on rope to hold it and keep on dragging you and make you chase a ghost while you're living the prophecies. We're in it. The mark of the beast is about to be instituted. Don't wait for no antichrist to come. We've been in the tribulation. We're in the tribulation. We're at the height. We're at the end. Okay? Read.
But the famine confounded all natural passions. For those who were just going to die, looked upon those that were going to their rest before them with dry eyes and open mouths.
Now, mind you, these were the people who did not take heed to the prophecy. So when Christ says, woe to them that give suck in those days, it was those that didn't travel and had children in this situation. They didn't take heed to the prophecies. Those that understood the prophecies did what Christ told them to do. They left. They knew what was coming. They didn't say, well, I'm an Israelite. I believe in God. I believe in... No, they did what the Most High told them to do. And they was protected from the face of the serpent. Read on.
A deep silence also, a kind of deadly night, had seized upon the city, while yet the robbers were still more terrible than these miseries were themselves.
So here it is. If you have people that are blocked off from society and are suffering, the strong overtakes the weak. So while these people were dying, you still had the strong, which were the Zealots in there, who were running around, still robbing and destroying the people, taking gold from the people and all that. But that's natural. You're going to have that in a chaotic situation. See, and this is the things that our historians and our government officials study. They study the psychology of people in these situations. Why? Because they know history. So they know once you cut the people off and cut their food and water off, the next thing to watch for is the looters, the robbers. Only the strong survive in those situations. So they have a program already in place to vilify those that are robbing the people. It's called looting. You can see it's the same process every time that a disaster happened, and it's a government-controlled disaster all the way through. Okay? It's a government-controlled disaster. They come up with the problem, then at the end they bring the solution. But what about the people in the meantime? What about them? Read on.
The robbers were still more terrible than these miseries were themselves, for they break open those houses, which were no other than open graves, which were no other than graves of dead bodies, and plundered them what they had.
So they started robbing dead bodies. Now you know that's against the Jews' law. That's against the Israelites' law. But these are the things people do in a panic scenario. When you have nothing. Read.
And carrying off the coverings of their bodies, went out laughing, and tried the points of their swords on their dead bodies. In order to prove what metal they were made of, they thrust some through of those that still lay alive upon the ground.
So they become maniacs amongst the people. You got maniacs, people losing their minds amongst. What they do, they make sure they take your weaponry first. After they take your weaponry, then they look at you. The military was laughing at people, looking at people suffering during Katrina. That's nothing compared to what's happening. You have to realize how the military is trained. They're trained for death. They're trained for war. They're not. Drugs, do all types of mind control plan with them. Some of them are chipped. These are those, and a lot of these will not be American armies. There's going to be a UN army here throughout this world. Okay, I don't want to mean to bounce back and forth, but there's some key points here. Go ahead.
They tried the points of their swords on their dead bodies.
Go ahead.
And in order to prove what
Listen to this. Go ahead.
Paragraph 4. There was a certain woman that dwelt beyond Jordan. Her name was Mary. Her father was Eleazar of the village of Bethzebub.
Go ahead.
Which signifies the house of Hyssop. She was eminent for her family and her wealth, and she fled away to Jerusalem with the rest of the multitude, and was with them besieged therein at this time.
So she was besieged. Go ahead.
The other effects of this woman had been already seized upon, such I mean as she had brought with her out of Perea, and moved to the city, which she had treasured up beside, as also what food she had contrived to save. and been also carried off by the rapacious guards, whom came every day running into her house for that purpose. This put the poor woman into a very great passion, and by the frequent reproaches and imprecations she cast out these rapacious villains, she had provoked them to anger against her. But none of them, either out of the indignation she had raised against herself, or out of commiseration of her case, would take away her life. And if she found any food, she perceived her labors were for others, and not for herself. And it was now become impossible for her any way to
have any food, out of food, going through what you call hunger pains. Go ahead.
and it was now become impossible for her any way to find any more food, while the famine pierced through her very bowels and marrow, when also her passion was fired to a degree beyond the famine itself. Nor did she consult with anything but with her passion and the necessity she was in.
Go ahead.
She then attempted a most unnatural thing, and snatching up her son, who was a child sucking at her breast, she said, O thou miserable infant, for whom shall I preserve thee in this war?
She said, how can I preserve my child in this war? She looked at her son that was sucking her breast. Read.
For whom shall I preserve thee in this war, this famine, and this sedition?
Go ahead.
As to the war with the Romans, if they preserve our lives, we must be slaves.
She said, what can I do? If I allow them to take us, my son is going to be a slave. Read.
This famine also will destroy us, even before that slavery comes upon us. Yet are these seditious rogues more terrible than both the other. Come on, be thou my food.
She looked at her son and says, you will be my food. A baby sucking on her breast. Read.
And be thou a fury to these seditious varlets and a byword to the world, which is all that is now wanting to complete the calamities of us Jews. As soon as she had said this, she slew her son.
She killed her own child that was sucking at her breast.
And then roasted him.
And then roasted him.
And ate the one half of him.
She ate one half of her own baby.
And kept the other half, and kept the other half by her concealed.
And she kept the threatened her and did what?
That they would cut her throat immediately if she did not show them what food she had gotten ready. She replied that she had saved a very fine portion of it for them, and withal uncovered what was left of her son. Hereupon they were seized with horror and amazement of mind, and stood astonished at the sight. When she said to them, This is my own son, and what hath been done was my own doing. Come, eat of this food, for I have eaten of it myself. Do not you pretend to be either more tender than a woman, or more compassionate than a mother? But if you be so scrupulous, and do abominate this my sacrifice, as I have eaten the one half, let the rest be reserved for me also. After which those men went out trembling, being never so much affrighted at anything as they were at this. And with some difficulty they left the rest of that meat to the mother, upon which the whole city was full of horrid action immediately. And while everybody laid this miserable case before their own eyes, they trembled as if this unheard of action had been by themselves. So those that were distressed by the famine were very desirous to die, and those already dead were esteemed happy, because they had not lived long enough either to hear or to see such miseries.
Now just examine that. This woman that was known for helping others, she didn't flee and had her child. And remember when Christ says in Matthew 24, woe to them that give suck in those days. It was talking about those that would be a result, that would be a direct result of the siege. Same exact thing. People looting, people going against each other. Now, I want to bring this thing around to what's going on, especially with our people in America and throughout the earth, really, because, you know, I looked into some of the camps, and they're not just in America. America got the blueprint of these camps from Europe. They practice these things. And who is financing these things? And I'm not afraid to say it. The Khazars and Rothschilds and the people whom you think or thought was Jews. But the Jewish people today are from the same stock and bloodline of the Caesars, and they're from the same blood and stock of Amalek, according to the Bible. They have infiltrated everything and made you believe that they were the victim, and have financed the genocide of the children of Israel. And they have pitted people against people, race against race, gender against gender. They thrive off of division. They have financed the eugenics program. They are dealing with the synagogue of Satan. They are the synagogue of Satan. They have Satan's program. They have used Hollywood and sorcery and Kabbalah teaching to demoralize the world through moving pictures or what you would call movies or television, to portray an image that may speak and live so that people can aspire to see this image. And that image is the mark of the beast. They have financed this through their sorcery. And through this, we've become what they have programmed us to become. And by demoralizing us, we have walked away from the God that was protecting us. We have walked away from him by following the image of the beast which speaks and lives. By following what we see on TV and movies, we were demoralized, and that hedge the Most High had over us was removed based on our actions and our sins against the Most High in the Bible, which gives Satan the full right to have total play over these people who are demoralized. We have the hedge over us as long as we follow Christ and follow the commandments. But if we're demoralized, we're in Satan's playground now. Who is financing this? The Jewish powers of this earth. They control the banks. They control everything. Okay? They control the fluctuation of the dollar and the markets of the dollar. They control everything. And they are really the same race and the same bloodline as the Caesars that destroyed us in 70 AD. But they're hiding under the name Jew, because it's easier to do their bid if they come off as the victim. They can do it and hide under being victimized. But they're not the victims. We're the victims. We're the victims of the world that they're financing. Examine it. Go to Revelation 13. I seen something, and I have a PDF that I'll give to a few of you brothers and sisters. I gave it to a few of the brothers yesterday. This This is out of Texas. This is from Radiant Aura FID. Huh? Check it and make sure what?
It's frozen.
Hold on one moment. Hold on.
Just check with them and see if it's okay. If it's frozen.
It's okay already. It's because it's streaming from here. It's froze. We froze at the house.
Okay, good. Someone asked, someone, and I wanted to address that because this is how it come around full circle. Someone asked, well, how is what's going on with the oil wells? And I'm not going to call it a spill, because a spill is if I had something in a cup and spilled it in water. It's not a spill. You got a volcanic eruption of oil at the bottom of the sea. Okay, the earth is bleeding. That's what's going on here. All right, and some people ask, well, what do this have to do with the siege and what we're reading in 70 AD? Well, we found information to know that weeks before the well blew, the oil was leaking at the bottom of the sea through drilling, miles away from where the rig was. They other countries which have oil rigs refuse to use this dispersant that the government of America is using over the water, because it brings the oil down into layers to make the people believe that the waters are clean. But yet our people, I say on our people, because if you poison the water, you poison the people. It's a military operation. And it's being used as a pretext for when Barack Obama made that speech to get added help from the Coast Guards and from the armies to help shore up or clean up the beaches. You don't hire assassins or killers to clean beaches. Okay? This is a pretext, a false flag pretext, to put military in the Gulf Coast all the way around the East Coast to finish putting a garrison, or to finish what you would call a military wall around the United States. That's what this is. And I'm bringing it here to show you how it links into modern day prophecy and the mark of the beast. Rapid RFID is the company. It's another subsidiary company to Verichip. I made some connections yesterday and some calls. And I found out now that the chip, or what they call the chips and bracelets, are not only for diabetics or people with Alzheimer's, or the fact that you might lose your pet in a disaster. Guess who have been included with this now? Because you've seen the commercial about the guy holding a chip saying, I got diabetes, but diabetes don't have me. You've seen it. Guess who's included in that list now? Under Radiant RFID. People who cannot afford to misplace themselves in a disaster. The poor. You are included in the list now. Now, this is leading to a path of including almost everyone, because look at the economy of America. Jobs are being lost by the end of June, and we're at the end of June. Millions of people will be cut off roads altogether. There's no more money left in the pool of money for unemployment. The bailout took the rest. And the extensions he gave dried up the pool. It's done. Then you have all these people who have applied for unemployment that can't get it now because it's tiers, and no one can meet these tiers. In a disaster, the value of your home go down. So if your value of your home go down, but yet you still have to pay the mortgage, not based on the value of your house, but your set contract, that means you can't even afford to leave your house. If you're on welfare or public assistance or getting any type of assistance from government, you are government property. These are all the people who are in this management evacuation program. And mind you, there's a date on this. They started getting this plan together in 2005, and it was actually executed and perfected in 2008. And now they're going to use it now. You're going to tell me that all this is a coincidence? They're going to use it now? Let me read this. Radiant RFID was instrumental in making the evacuee tracking a process. Challenge. Here's the challenge. You see how the spread is? Looks all nice. Don't it look like something that you can readily accept? Here to help the people. Challenge. Listen to this. You require the ability to manage and track large-scale evacuations and sheltering operations with hundreds to tens of thousands of evacuees. When more than 1 million people evacuated from Hurricane Katrina in August 2005, now mind you, Katrina is 4 years after the false flag of the Twin Towers in 2001. You see the parallels here? You see that how nothing different? A few years after the false flag, then you have a thing where Katrina is an issue now. Still aimed at a certain people. It started off with Arabs. Now the terrorists are Christians and black people. It says here, when more than 1 million people evacuated from Hurricane Katrina in August 2005, I don't want to just say Christians and black people. There's many people. There's white people that's included. These Christian groups that are right wing, primarily white people, are considered terrorists. But it started with this guy in a cave that no one had found yet. It says more than 1 million people evacuated from Hurricane Katrina in August 2005, and more than 2.7 million people fled from Hurricane Rita the following month. Evacuation routes were gridlocked, fuel supplies drained, and shelters overwhelmed. Thousands of families were separated, and hundreds of pets lost or left behind. The lessons learned from these catastrophic events reshaped the way the state of Texas approached mass evacuation and sheltering, and amplified the need to better assist and track special needs individuals throughout the process. Here's the solution. The solution is Radiant RFID. Partnership with Motorola and AT&T. Worked for more than 2 years developing a system that incorporates Radiant RFIDs, enhanced tracking software, RFID wristbands, RFID portals, GPS, Motorola handhelds, and AT&T communication for Texas. The special needs evacuation tracking system, which is SNETS, integrates these components to provide a reliable, scalable solution that has been better tested in more than 20 exercises and drills and 2 real hurricanes. They're telling you in this spread that they was using these things as a test, as drills. For what? For what's about to happen very soon. For what's about to happen very soon. The Lord, it tells you in Revelations, Babylon the Great is fallen. And they know they don't have enough to deal with all the issues that are happening in America all at once. Unemployment, water's bad, people suffering, running out of food, no jobs. They don't have enough to deal with all these issues. Where will there's no place that they can displace all these people that will be evacuated from the Gulf Coast. It's impossible. They have a plan for you though. It's called evacuee centers. We was telling you it was FEMA camps years ago. Now they've made a pretext in which the people will welcome this or breathe in benzene and die. So you're not going to be forced to go into the camps. You will beg to go into the camps. And then that's when it begins. It says right here, RFID wristbands are scanned by RFID portals and handhelds. Now the handhelds is what the military will have scanning and processing the people. As evacuees proceed through the evacuation process, updating the information at each point and sending the data wirelessly to a centralized database. The solution allows the state and locals to monitor the evacuees' status, keep family members and pets and medical assets together like they care. They want to make sure you and your family and your pets are together. So we got to link you into a database. Why can't you just put the family on the same bus? Or just ask people, okay, where's your mother and father? That don't work. And it says here, it says, family members and pets and medical assets together while providing information to loved ones at each stage in the evacuation process. RFID speeds up the processing and saves precious volunteer and responder resources when both are in short supply. Integration. Now this is how they integrate. Integration to the other systems such as Web EOC and SNCA. It's provided by Radiant's Web Services layer, providing a clean integration point for local or other statewide information systems. Here's the benefits and overview. Track people, pets, assets with one system, keeping family units and items together. Notice that's the first bullet point. So they're actually coming to help keep you together in a catastrophic scenario. That's what the military is coming to do. It's coming to do the same thing they did in Katrina. They want to make sure they track the people. They gave everyone cards to do spending with. They called them what you would call refugees, so that you can fall under a military term and not have rights as a citizen. Once you stay, you give up your rights as a citizen and become an evacuee or a refugee. You fall under a different law. Track people, pets, and assets with one system, keeping family units and items together. RFID, barcode, and GPS enabled. Efficient registration process. Up-to-date information at each point during the process. Flexible reporting and mapping. Extensive evacuees search capabilities. Now here's the question, folks. If this is a military action, and we know it is, and you're being processed to be evacuated, what you think happened to those who have bench warrants? What you think happened to those who owe child support? What you think happened to those who are in debt? Think about it. This is a sure way to actually filter the people. And everyone will have separate buses. Some people will be wanted and have to go through tribunal courts. They have to be separated from the populace and processed and be given tags. This is what's going on, and those are just those they're looking for. There have been instances reported that during Katrina, children was taken away from their parents under being protected by government and was actually chipped. And they was tracking the goings of the families years after Katrina was done. This is where we are. Go to Revelation 13. And I want to say this too. This should be an eye-opener for you people who believed in your Christian leaders. These things were contained in the Bible the whole time, and they continue to teach you false teachings that was established through the Vatican. The Vatican is Rome. Rome was the seat of Satan, was the place for Satan's people to go against you in 70 AD. You should have a problem with modern day Christianity and their doctrine. The Bible is correct. You have to separate the Bible from doctrine that they're teaching. Okay? You should have a problem with that. You would think all the money and time and resources and spirits you have given to these institutions, they would have at least let you know we're in the time that Christ was speaking of, instead of telling you you have to wait for some antichrist to pop up and telling you you don't have to worry about any tribulation because Christ is going to float you up into a cloud before the mark of the beast is instituted. These were strategic doctrinal teachings to keep you still, to pacify you, knowing that you would go through these things and not prepare. Let's go to Revelation 13. Start at the 15th verse.
Revelations chapter 13, verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
So if you don't deal with the image of the beast that speak and yet live is what they portray through your TV. That's what John was seeing. He was seeing a propaganda, or what you would call a programming of the people to follow a certain lifestyle that speak and lives before you. They use television for that. Who used this? Those sorcerers that came up with moving pictures to feed you a lifestyle. Okay? So that you can live above your means. And when they take it away from you, you'll do anything to retain that lifestyle. That's the image of the beast they gave us in America. It was a lifestyle living above your means. They did that on purpose so that you can worship the beast in time of trouble. Read.
Verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor.
So it doesn't matter if you small or great, rich or poor. This is all of us. Read.
Free and bond.
Doesn't matter if you are in prison or released. Read.
To receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
And they're rolling these programs out in which you will be tracked. It's called the mark of the beast. And it's called the microchip. This microchip also, in certain instances, and governments have tested it. They have chips with cyanide in it that can actually give you a dose of cyanide and kill you on the spot if you don't comply. This thing is deeper than you might think. So people that will receive the chip are under close surveillance, and your life hangs in the balance based on whether or not the government wants you to live, based on how they feel about your servitude to them, if you are a good enough cow for them, if you are worthy to live. Only the Most High should have that power. So this is leading you to be chipped, to be marked, to be tracked, and you'll have no choice. They'll tell you in a minute, you can stay there if you want. Breathe benzene. Breathe these toxic chemicals that we're spraying in the water. Or you can come into what we have rolled out for you. We have clean sheets. We have food. What are you going to do? And I'll tell you, those that go into these camps, it will be a living nightmare. A living nightmare. It's the jail system. The jail system we see today on steroids. Now it's the whole country. It's camps. This is where you and your family will have to reside, being controlled, working off your debt. Read.
Verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell.
So they are purposely, the government powers of this earth are purposely destroying the value of currencies in the earth to bring forth an electronic monetary system. You control the people by controlling the resources. So the collapse of the dollar and the fact that you're losing your jobs are purpose to lead you in which you would have to depend on them to buy or sell. What can do this? An electronic system. The Vera chip. Radiant RFID. It's all connected. These natural disasters, it's all connected and leading to the mark of the beast, leading you in a system as if you're cattle or cow being tagged like cattle. And they already have you used to this. You're used to this to some degree. Think about it. You're used to dealing with your cards. You're being tracked that way, but it's not on the same level. They want to track people. They tested it with pets, and they're going to do children from the gate. Right out of the womb, they're going to be shooting children. No choice. You have no choice over your children anyway. They are properties of the state. They become properties of the state when you sign the birth certificate at birth. That's voluntary. You're signing your child over to the government. They're not yours. They can take your child at any time. Read.
Verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark.
No man can buy or sell unless he have this mark. And you notice, going back to the original premise of this teaching, about how the desolation starts with false flags. Right after the false flags, who came with the food for the starving? Who came with the way to help the people? Nero. He created the problem so that he can become the solution. And the RFID chip and the radiant RFID is the solution for what's going on in the earth today. And not just America. They're bankrupting all, especially all the Western world banks. They're bankrupting all these different cities and countries, taking away their currency. Why? Because they're used to a certain lifestyle. They're used to a certain image. And because people are used to living above their means and really don't know what it means to live off the land, you are a prisoner to Satan. You have to worship him to survive in this system. So you're looking for the Antichrist, and the Antichrist has been operating ever since the Caesars were established within the earth. The Antichrist has been operating ever since World War I and World War II, which was a pretext to put the Caesars in Israel. Sitting in the temple of the Most High as if they are the Most High. And right at the dome is where their Lord is, their God that they worship at the dome in Capernaum near the sea. That's where Satan resides. The spirit Satan, who has been bound to this earth, have given these empires the technology and understanding on what to do. And they follow Satan because they're Satan's sheep. Satan say blow something up, they blow it up. Satan tell them to drill somewhere and destroy something, they do it. That's why it says, woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. For Satan come down knowing that he have a short time. So he's their leader. And it's against us. But there's a remnant of his people that will not be duped by this program. There's a remnant that will stand and that will live through this, that will continue to warn the people until we're all together in the wilderness. So with that, I hope you receive the understanding, continue to pray. And may the Most High be with you. And I hope you understand that these false flags are created. There is no terrorism. There is no terrorist. There's no boogeyman that's trying to destroy your way of living. Okay? There is no people that's trying to come over the borders and take away your way of living. Okay? There's no, don't believe the stories. There is nobody trying to cross the border and take your jobs. You have no jobs. Bill Clinton gave away your jobs in NAFTA. That's it. There is no jobs. The NAFTA agreement allowed your precious factories to be built in other countries outside of the country. Mexicans didn't do that. Bill Clinton did that. You had jobs before this happened. So stop. You stop buying the hype. I'm talking to these Christian extremists, these militia groups who think that they have who are fighting against the Mexicans for no reason. Help the Mexicans. Don't think that they are drug cartels like the government is pushing. They're people that's trying to live and help their families. There's no drug cartels. The biggest drug cartel is the governments that control the drugs. So stop fighting against the people. The people are a result of government. The other piece I want to say before we go, before I leave here, before hear the lesson today, is that we have to pray, stay in Christ, help each other, stop believing the hype with media propaganda, and we must help each other on a base level. On a base level. Without depending on government. And I'm going to say this because one of the reasons we don't The things that have taken our faith away is our dependence on government. Welfare was purpose. Handouts were purpose. Okay? Because if you live that way, you are actually dependent on government. And you will do everything they tell you to do. You will shoot your children with vaccinations, or the government will not allow your child to go to school. Okay, as long as you take their handouts, you have to do what they say. Okay, so that was also programmed so that you can go down to your public assistance office or wherever and say, okay, well, just like you had to get your children vaccinated, you have to get them and you chipped. Okay, because your money is not going to no longer come through your access card. Okay, it's going to come through your microchip. This is what's happening. This is the world we live in today. Okay? So I wanted to do a lesson to bring it all together. No conspiracy theory, history to show you that it's the same thing again, the same exact situations over again with technology and sorcery on a high level that can control weather patterns and even make earthquakes. That's what we're fighting against. And you know what? We must be very important if they have to do all this against little old us. We're just little old people trying to survive. And they're moving weather patterns. They're blowing stuff up. They're doing all this. It must be something greater than what's being publicized on YouTube or publicized through your media. Why are they going through all these things? There's a people that's going to rise. Matthew 24:13, and I'll end it with that. And this is not gloom and doom. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Let's make this clear. There's a light at the end of this tunnel.
St. Matthew, chapter 24, verse 13.
Read it.
But he that shall endure unto the end.
He that what?
But he that shall endure unto the end.
Brother, get it. One more time.
But he that shall endure unto the end.
He that shall endure until the end. That means we endure through this. I'm going to tell you, brothers and sisters, no matter what happens, I don't care what the government tell you, do not go into these camps. Do not go into these camps for any reason. They'll control the media coming out of there. It's going to be horrible. Ye that endure until the end, read.
The same shall be saved.
The same shall be saved. No one is going to float you up into a cloud. The church is not going to be in some spiritual purgatory while this is going on. You have to endure through this to the end. To the end. And another thing, those people that are cleaning up on those beaches, they're under this prisoner program that Barack Obama signed that will allow prisoners to get fresh air, to come out of their incarceration, to go to the beaches to get away and get some sun. So they signed a program in which they will use prisoners to clean up the beaches, knowing that these prisoners will be breathing in toxic fumes well above levels anyone should be breathing. Notice on all the news circulations, there's only black people cleaning up beaches. Other people got enough sense not to be out there. Read Matthew 24 and 22.
St. Matthew, chapter 24, verse 22. And except those days shall be shortened.
And except the Most High shorten the days Satan have the rule. See, he know he have a certain amount of time within his time frame. You got that 2012 out there and different dates out there. The age of Aquarius. So he think he has a certain amount of time. Read it.
And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved.
If the Most High did not shorten the time that Satan and his government cronies have to rule, and his government sheep that are following him. If the Most High didn't shorten him hit those days, read.
There should no flesh be saved.
None of us would be left. There will be no flesh left. There will be no animals left. There will be no people left. If the Most High did not shorten the time he gave Satan. Satan don't care about us. Satan don't care about this world. He don't care about the Lord's creation. He have even given the government officials information on how to live out in space, knowing what might happen to this earth. Read.
But for the elect's sake, those days should be shortened.
Because the Most High have an elect in this earth, a remnant that he must protect, he's shortening the days that Satan have to rule. And all these false flags, all these attacks, this government power in the one world order is aimed towards exterminating that elect. Who is the elect according to the Bible? Isaiah 45:4. This is it. Unless those days be shortened, no flesh shall be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So Satan's time is almost up. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. He will lose. We will win. We will win if we stay in Christ. Program is aimed towards those physical people. Wake up. Think about it. We are the children of Israel. We are the people that have bared Christ. He came out of the same loins. We're from the same mother and father. And he came so that this world could be saved. And he commanded that when the Jews or the Israelites wake up, that we would become a light to the Gentiles so they can get the right teachings opposed to the Roman Catholic teachings. We would teach this Bible in spirit and in truth because the Bible is our forefathers' records. It's not a religious book. It's the records of a people. That's why we were born. That's the reason we were